Today's video is of course sponsored by Squarespace. Welcome to part 2 of my 2022 season preview. Part 1 is linked above, where I talked all about what's changing this year, why it's changing, and how last season finished. Now let's talk about the teams, the drivers, and give some bold early doors predictions for what I think is going to happen in 2022. 10 teams, 10 team principals, 20 drivers, from 40-year-old Fernando Alonso, by the end of the 2022 season, should have more F1 race starts than any driver in Formula 1 history ever. He's currently only 16 behind Kimi Raikkonen, who of course retired, so he can't do any more. To 22-year-old Guan Yu Zhou in his first season of Formula 1, promoted from the feeder series Formula 2. A fresh start for everyone. This is undoubtedly a huge opportunity, particularly for the teams and drivers who have struggled in mediocrity for years now. This is a chance, it's a fresh slate. Please, one of you small teams, do something decent, do a brawn. That would be majestic. But of course, not everyone can win. Some will rise to the challenge, some will flop. Let's start this list with the team that has flopped most as of recent, which of course is HAAS. Mick, Nikita, Gunter and HAAS have struggled as of late in 2021 and 2020, the team, and 2019, the team as well. To be fair, HAAS have been in a pretty sorry state for the last few seasons. It's easy to forget how promising it was when they joined the sport in 2016. They hit the ground running pretty well. 2018, they finished 5th in the constructors' standing. It's very difficult to judge all the teams in Formula 1, but for me, I think HAAS is the most mysterious, most difficult to get a proper judgment of where they actually sit relative to everyone else. Yes, over their 6 seasons in the sport, they've demonstrated that they can make a good car in their partnership with Dallara, but of course with HAAS it's not all done in-house. Dallara built the chassis, Ferrari help them out a lot, and that's stepped up for 2022 as well. Plus they've got a facility in Maranello and the US and the UK. Now cost cap being in place should help HAAS a lot to battle on a financial level, and the fact that they completely wrote off the 2021 season, again, you would think, sweet, that's going to help them out. Problem is, all these teams have been working on these new regulations since 2019, maybe even earlier than that. I mean, it was first drafted that there were going to be new rules back in 2017. But the problem with 2019 is that is the year when it started to really hit the fan for HAAS with the whole energy debacle. We're not going to get too much into that today. We all know how that transpired. So do I have the confidence in HAAS that they would have been able to put early resource into this new regulation project in 2019 when they were going through all that nonsense with bad Santa? No, I don't. Yes, their new facility in Italy is pretty impressive. They've got Simone Resta in from Ferrari in 2021, and that's a clear sign that their relationship with Ferrari is getting closer from here on in, and I expect big things of Ferrari, so surely that's going to help out HAAS. We'll have to see how good the engine is. All good, but too little too late? I think so. Also, side point, I am shocked. I am still completely shocked that Gene Haas's name is still on that car. Although, to be fair, HAAS isn't even, it's Uralkali HAAS now, and Uralkali's a lot bigger in the logo as well. So I feel like that's getting phased out slowly but surely, I'm not going to lie, before it becomes Russian Time 2.0 essentially. As for the drivers, I've not got a huge amount to say because it is very difficult to rate both of them. 2020 F2 Championship winner Mick Schumacher did a much better job than his teammate, you can say that for sure, but still that HAAS car was so uncompetitive, it didn't give either of them any chance to battle with anyone around apart from each other, and we know that came to blows a few times. Schumacher wiped the floor with Mazepin in 2021. That is objectively true, and there's been nothing to suggest that Nikita Mazepin's there for any other reason than his money. But if they can give them a more competitive car relative to everyone else in 2022, I am actually very excited to see how them two do. I'm not expecting anything from Nikita, but I'm expecting pretty good things from Mick Schumacher. I rate him. Do you like the idea of having your very own personalized website, whether it's just for a nice little passion project you got going on, a blog, your portfolio, maybe you run a business and you want somewhere online to show off what you got to sell? Well, Squarespace is the all-in-one website building platform that I've been using for years that I will continue to recommend, not just because they sponsor this channel, but because I genuinely believe in the product that they offer. Drag and drop functionality, thousands of beautiful templates, 24/7 customer support. Honestly, if you want to give it a go, I couldn't recommend Squarespace highly enough. Head to squarespace.com, have a look, best thing is you can try it out, play around with the functionality completely for free. It's only when you want to put your website live to the rest of the world that you have to pay anything. And when that time inevitably comes around, make sure you use the discount code TOMMOF1 or click the link in the description below for 10% off your first website or domain. Officially now the Alfa Romeo F1 team Orlen, they've dropped the racing. I know in the biggest rebrand of all time, joke, barely anything changed. To be fair though, I actually think they have smartened up the logo. As a logo aficionado myself, I never liked the kind of Italian flag line that they had underneath. It's nicer now, okay? But yeah, this Alfa Romeo Sauber team, whatever you want to call it, it's just such a frustrating team. It truly is, because they're in such a unique position. They've got their base in Himwell in Switzerland. They're miles away from the UK. Everyone's just stuck in the UK. Go outside and find some other, set up an F1 team in Kuwait or something. I don't know. Do something different. It's all in the bloody Midlands. But yeah, they've got the facility. They've got this amazing wind tunnel apparently that everyone goes on about. Yet they've just been trash over recent years. I'm sorry. In the last 8 years, they haven't finished higher than 8th in the Constructors' Championship. Gone are the days of the BMW Sauber Kubica Highfeld when they were winning races. 2007, 2008, they finished 2nd and 3rd respectively in the Constructors' Championship. But over recent years, it's been rubbish. That success in the late 2000s suggests that the team is capable, but again, how much of that was the BMW influence in there? Hard to say. Obviously, they brought in Fred Vasseur from Renault. He joined in 2017, so the 8-year rot predates his time. But since he's come in, the ship has been steadied, I guess, but nothing's really changed. Apart from in like 2019, when Charles Leclerc jumped into that Sauber, and then like the final 3 races, he finished 7th, like 3 times best of the rest, okay? Hence, in a way, why the driver lineup is all shaken up for 2021. And this is actually a super exciting, interesting one. Okay, Valtteri Bottas coming back from Mercedes, going down to Alfa Romeo. I mean, we're saying that. Who knows? Alfa might build a better car than Mercedes. Imagine that. 1000 IQ play from Valtteri Bottas goes from a declining Mercedes to a rising Alfa Romeo. Imagine. It could actually happen. That's what makes it so sick. But I do hope he'll right some wrongs in his stint at Alfa Romeo. Because look, his wheel-to-wheel racing in 2021 was very bad. There were numerous instances where he didn't get his elbows out. He didn't show that he was a driver worthy of being in a top seat. I'm sorry. Some of you seem to think I hate the man, which is dumb. I'm calling out bad performances when it's clear for everyone to see he had a poor 2021. It's not rocket science. It's not that deep. He's a lovely bloke, and I do genuinely hope this is a renaissance for him at Alfa Romeo. A bit of a longer contract, a bit less pressure. I hope to see him thrive because he got the call up to Mercedes on merit in the first place. He was quality in that Williams in 2015, 2016, even 2017, his first season at Mercedes. Very, very good. Won 3 races in that first year. Only won 1 after 5 years at the team. It wasn't good enough in 2021. I'm sorry, but I hope better things are to come from Valtteri Bottas. Alongside Guan Yu Zhou, a driver that, look, it's no secret. We know he's not there just based on merit. Otherwise, it would be Oscar Piastri, but that's not how F1 works. He does bring in a lot of backing. He's not a mug. He's not a terrible racing driver by any stretch of the imagination. Like, he had a very similar F2 career, I think, to Nicholas Latifi, actually. Never won the championship, was usually up there in the fight in his final season, particularly. Did well, finished 3rd. It will be good for the reach of the sport to have a Chinese driver in Formula 1. Of course, but I do firmly expect Valtteri Bottas will wipe the floor with him. He has to. He does. He has to wipe the floor with him. But Zhou did win 4 F2 races last season, so you don't do that without at least some talent. Come on. One of F1's most iconic names, Williams have had a tough time over recent years. To put it lightly, the Williams family sold up in 2020 to De Rilton Capital, an investment firm who have injected loads of cash, hired Jos Capito to take over to take that team principal role. And I do feel, looking into this new regulation phase, I feel similarly to Williams like I do about HAAS actually, because both teams had terrible 2019s. Williams didn't even make the test. And I think actually the 2019 Williams car was worse than the 2021 HAAS. I think definitely. Not to mention that Williams almost bit the energy bullet. Imagine if they'd have done that as well as having the terrible 2019 car, they wouldn't be here anymore, I think. But once again, that early dysfunction and not being able to get on top of these new regulations because you've got all this other stuff going on in the background would not have helped Williams start early. So therefore, I don't have a huge amount of confidence in them going into 2022. What I will say though, Jos Capito seems to be super switched on, comes from VW in WRC. He's had a year now to bed into that team. I don't know too much about Jos. What I've read about him has been good. He hasn't had an opportunity to really prove himself yet because it takes time to really, set your roots into a team. And they were coming from so far back that in fact they finished 8th in the Constructors. That's a pretty big dub, to be fair. And just as HAAS have stepped up their relationship with Ferrari, Williams have also stepped up their relationship with Mercedes from 2022 onwards. And Mercedes are pretty good. So I think they're in safe hands there. As for the drivers, obviously I'm gassed to see Alex back in the sport. That goes without saying. But look, let's not get it twisted. I'm expecting a very, very strong season relative to his teammate from Alex Albon. Do not forget, this is a driver in his debut season who pretty much matched Daniel Kvyat in the Toro Rosso, jumped into the Red Bull and did a way better job than Pierre Gasly had done. Yes, he got slapped up in 2020 by Max Verstappen, but let's be honest, who wouldn't? Pierre already had. Sergio, to less of an extent, of course, don't get me wrong, he did a much better job than Alex, but Sergio still got slapped up by Max. But honestly, how many drivers do you think could have jumped into that Red Bull in 2020 and come anywhere near Max Verstappen? It was a sink or swim season and he sunk. Maybe I'm biased, maybe I'm giving him too much benefit of the doubt. Let me know in the comments below. I know you will anyway, but just it's good for the engagement of the video. But yeah, my expectations are very high of him going into his 3rd year in Formula 1 after a year out to regroup. I don't think that's all bad, to be honest. He's had a bit of a stint in DTM. He's been working on the Red Bull simulator, recreating crashes. It's great experience. There's no excuses. You got this, Alex. I believe in you, boyo. Come on, son. And as for Nicholas Latifi, well, of course, 2021 was a step up from his debut season in 2020. No question. And we've only been able to compare him to George so far, who appears to be something very, very special. I think we're going to see that in 22. I do expect Nicholas to be closer to Alex than he was to George because I think George is better than Alex, but also Latifi is improving as a driver going into his 3rd year as well. But 3 years all at Williams, that's only going to help Nicky. Honestly, I would love to see them two slap it up in 2022, but there's not enough. I've not seen enough from Nicholas Latifi to suggest that he is capable of operating at the top level, but I'm all for being proven wrong. It's happened many times before and it will continue to happen many times in the future. Don't you worry about that. From P3 in the Constructors in 2020 down to P7 in 2021, the Silverstone-based team have had quite the last couple of seasons, haven't they? The highs of Sergio's amazing win at Sakir to the lows of the entire year of 2021 pretty much. Did copying the Mercedes car philosophy for 2020 work? Yes, of course it did. Did the regulation adjustment for 2021 disproportionately hurt that Mercedes developed philosophy for that car? Yes, it did as well. Difference is Mercedes was so clear in 2020 that just brought them into the jaws of Red Bull, whereas that took the racing point from top of the midfield to bottom of it. A tough pill to swallow, a difficult year for a team that's pretty consistently over their existence punched way above their weight. But a fresh start for 2022 with a lot of new individuals at that team as well. Otmar Safnauer, my glorious, beautiful Otmar Safnauer, may have departed, but they've brought in Martin Whitmarsh, ex-McLaren, as we all know, Eric Blandin from Merck, Luca Fabato from ALFA, Dan Fallows from Red Bull, and of course, new team principal, Mike Crack. It appears to be slowly taking shape. Give it a few years, and I think Aston Martin are going to be top tier. Now, of course, with a new team principal, let's first have a quick deep dive into Mike Crack. What? He could have gone by Michael, he chose Mike, and therefore it's free game as far as I'm concerned. Okay, I'm sorry. This man has experience in Formula 1. He has quite the CV, starting all the way back in 2001 when he joined Sauber. Rose up through the ranks, was Felipe Massa's race engineer in 2003 before becoming chief race engineer for the team. Unfortunately, he decided to dip from the BMW Sauber Formula 1 team after the maddening decision to focus on 2009 in 2008 and not support Robert Kubica's potential title challenge for 2008. What were they doing? That's such a stupid decision. So he left F1 then, went to BMW to support their DTM stuff, and then Porsche in the World Endurance Championship before going back to BMW in 2014 to oversee their Formula E, GT and IMSA programs. Great CV, great name, what a signing. As for the drivers, well, I do think that Sebastian Vettel had a pretty solid 2021 season. His confidence would have taken an absolute battering in 2020 after the shocker that was that Ferrari year. And after he punted Ocon at Bahrain in the debut race of the season, I was concerned, I'm not going to lie. But credit to him, he took what was the 7th quickest car last year to 2 podiums. I know one didn't count, but come on, it was 2 podiums. Had an absolute stellar drive in Monaco as well, and had a few other good, yes, I know he had a couple of spins and it wasn't all glory, sunshine and rainbows, but all in all, I was pretty happy with the trajectory of Sebastian Vettel in 21. I do think he's invested in this project long term. I know his contract expires at the end of 22. I'm be shocked if he doesn't extend, because I think he is working towards something a lot bigger, and I think he wants to stay and be part of that journey, because I think the potential future could be very, very good. And then for Lance, it's still a tricky one to judge for me, Lance, because he is only 23, but then he has had loads of, this is like his 5th season. Was it 2017, his first season in Formula 1? It's a 6th season in Formula 1. You have to more judge him on that. And 2021 wasn't a bad year, but it wasn't amazing either. He actually got more point scoring finishes than Seb, but they were all on the fringes of the points. He didn't have anywhere near the highs that Seb had in 2021. Will he be bought the time to develop and improve and grow as a driver? Absolutely. But do I think he's got the ceiling of a driver like Vettel, like Hamilton, like Verstappen, like Leclerc? No, I don't. But I do hope to see him kick on. Lance seems like a proper laugh. I've warmed to his character a lot over the last couple of years. And yeah, I wish him the best. Red Bull sister, not junior, sister team has retained its driver lineup for the first time in, I don't know, it feels like forever. Last year's car was good. It was very good. It was up there with the Ferrari and the McLaren on its day, but only really in the hands of one driver, and so that meant they only finished 6th in the constructors. But Franz Tost, in my mind, like, he has done an incredible job of turning what was Minardi into a very, very solid midfield. Supporting driver development, Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, great drivers have come through the ranks of Red Bull. Carlos Sainz now at Ferrari. Everyone's looking ahead. And Pierre Gasly is a prime example. He's driving out of his skin. He has been for the last 2.5 years, as far as I'm concerned, since he went back to Faenza. But he knows his future isn't at that team, because he wants to be at a top team. And I think his performances in this last 2.5 years have justified a call-up to a top team. That's the problem. There's only so many seats and there's so many good drivers at the very top. Yes, AlphaTauri has big money behind it because of the Red Bull connection, and yes, their clothes are extortionately expensive, but it's still just human beings who need to be managed and handled in the best way possible to get the best out of them to make the best car. But yeah, I've got no reason to expect that Pierre won't be quality in 2022. As for Yuki Tsunoda, look, I mean, his 2021 season started really well and ended really well, but the filling of the sandwich was pretty bad. But I reserve the opinion that Yuki is a diamond in the rough, okay? And it's getting there. There were signs in 2021. They weren't very often, but there were signs in his first season, remember? So it's always going to be difficult. Some rookies struggle more than others. He didn't have a great 2021 season, especially with Pierre Gasly just driving the absolute nuts off that car. Going into 2022, fresh car platform for everyone. My expectations of Yuki Tsunoda are pretty high, actually. I think he will push Gasly close. Maybe that's blind fandom because I really like the kid. He's one of my favourite drivers, but we'll see. We'll see, won't we? ASTON did deliver Fernando Alonso his 2 world championships in 2005 and 2006, remember? But since then, the team has struggled in relative mediocrity. Apart from the Lotus stint when you had Grosjean and Raikkonen in the car, they could win races. Then they bounced around the kind of lower end of the field, and then they kind of have recently bounced around the middle of the field since the kind of Ricciardo, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Alonso era of the team. They've just been very mediocre. A lot of talk about big things, but we haven't seen the results yet, which is a shame because I really love the team. There's just something about the team that I really like. I've already said it on Twitter. I think Alpine are probably the team I'm going to be pulling for most in 2022. We know they can build a title-winning package. They just have to nail the regulations? Do you believe in Laurent Rossi, Alpine CEO, that he can build the team and push forwards? Prost is out and he's cited Rossi wanting to have too much control and doesn't want to listen to anyone else. But Bukowski's also out, who I really like. Marcin, I don't know whether he's going to the FIA to maybe support Massey. That's my kind of theory, but who knows? Which just leaves Davide Brivio as race director. You kind of had Bukowski and Brivio who kind of joint team principled that team last year. Maybe they're going to bring Otmar Safnauer in alongside Brivio, or maybe just Brivio. It just doesn't inspire confidence to me that there's all of this change going on in senior personnel before the 2022 season's even started. The fan in me is like, yes, they're going to be great, but then the objective side of my brain is like, what are they doing? One thing they can rely on, though, without any question of doubt, is Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso, the two closest teammates of any pairing in 2021. Esteban had slightly higher highs in 2021, but Fernando was definitely the more consistent driver over the course of the season. I think did slightly do better than Esteban, but it's a great position for Alpine to be in when you've got two drivers who can clearly work together really well and are both driving pretty close to the ceiling of that car. They just need to give them a better car. The Papaya lot had a very difficult Rona break, didn't they? They had to sell the MTC, now they rent it, they had to lay off a bunch of staff. Things looked pretty precarious at one point, but they stayed on, they got investment, and actually considering all of that, 2021 went really well for a team that was going through all that stuff and taking on a new engine in the Mercedes, of course. Question is, will all that stuff, all that kind of financial difficulty and worry, will that potentially affects their 2022? Because like I said with Williams, with Haas, when you've got this instability in the team throughout this period and other teams don't, you are surely more likely to fall behind. I mean, McLaren have been through a mad past 5 years, right? Raising from P9 in the Constructors' Championship in 2017 to achieving a race win in 2021 that was pretty much on merit. Almost two if Lando were converted in Russia as well. But you cannot talk about McLaren's success without talking about Zak Brown and Andreas Seidel. They are, for me, like fish and chips, like pie and mash, like Dick and Dom, like Kevin and Stacey. The absolute vibes of Zak Brown with such a shrewd businessman hidden behind that lovable, huggable exterior. And the icy precision of the composed German diligence that is Andreas Seidel. It's just a match made in heaven. I love them both. Andreas Seidel, he's so good. I love him. I need a poster of him here somewhere. And as for the drivers, well, look, Lando, he don't really need to talk about. He's proven he is the gear. He is the gravy. He is the difference of brown liquid that you pour on your roast, all right? He's quality. And going into season 4, I mean, he's taken a step up every single year. Could he step up even further? Why not? And as for Daniel, look, obviously he had a difficult 2021. He won a race, which was great, but most of the rest of the season wasn't great. To be fair, it was mainly the first half of the season. The second half of the season, he was a lot closer to Lando, although Lando did get quite unlucky. But still, Daniel typically, like it happened at Renault. Like his first year at Renault wasn't amazing. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't amazing. His second season, boom. He took that beautiful black and yellow Renault to 2 podiums, miles clear by the end of the season of his teammate Esteban Ocon. He did a great job in that second year in the car. I'm expecting his second year at McLaren to be much better than his first. Ricciardo versus Norris will be fun to watch in 22. I'm pretty confident of that. The Scuderia, my early pick for the team to beat in 2022. Yes, I know it's super early, but that's what we're doing here, okay? Until I've seen testing, I'm giving my proper predictions, but right now, I'm saying Ferrari's the team to beat in 22. They have the facility, they have the personnel, they had the money in 2019 to throw at this early doors to get a big head start. They've got ownership and control of their engine. And they've got probably the best driver pairing on the grids. They're hurting. Many years of hurt. 15 years since they've won a World Drivers' Championship is too long. So Fosi, you lot deserve so much better. It is honestly an absolute shambles that you haven't had more success. Given all the resource that comes into Ferrari, we need to see Ferrari at the top again. Binotto was always going to have a difficult job coming in and replacing Arriva Bene. I was very critical of Binotto at the time. On reflection, I actually think that, you know what, considering he inherited a car that was doomed to be caught out with the dodgy engine, the chassis was terrible in 2020. I think as team principal comes in, it takes time for them to enact their vision, and they're inheriting a lot of baggage from the leadership before. So I think Binotto was always doomed to have a difficult entry period. But now they built a car that got 2 pole positions in the hands of Charles Leclerc in 2021. Like, that's a fact at the end of the day. What is there to say about Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz? They are incredible. The Spaniard adapted to that car super quickly. 4 podiums in 2021 in his first season at Ferrari. So good. I cannot wait for him to get his first win. I will be so happy. I hope I'm on a stream or I'm doing backseat driver when Carlos Sainz wins his first race, because that's going to be a great day. And Charles Leclerc is quality, okay? Let's not get it twisted. Yes, he only managed 1 podium in 2021 and finished behind Carlos in points, but he got 6 P4s over the course of the season. 6. Yes, he's still liable at driving slightly over 100% and making some mistakes every now and then, but I think it's a lot easier to drag a driver back from 101% than it is to get them from 95 to, 100. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm buzzing to see them two fight for a championship at the top. If I had to say which driver would win, I would say Leclerc, but not by much. They finally did it. The turbo hybrid era was almost a complete Mercedes whitewash. 8 seasons, 8 Mercedes Constructors Championships, but only 7 Drivers' Championships, because of course Max Verstappen won the 2021 World Drivers' Championship. I know it ended dodgy. I know Lewis should have won that race. Under normal circumstances, if the rules had been followed by the book, Lewis would have won that race and won the title. I understand all this. He got that bit of luck handed to him when he needed it. And look, over the 22 races, you can't begrudge Max. He drove the best of any driver in Formula 1 in 2021, in my opinion. But the question is, will that 2021 push from both him, not so much him to be fair, but from Red Bull, bringing the developments, bringing the new bits to the car, will that have distracted them from the long-term goals and ambition of 2022? Well, first of all, I'd like to think that Red Bull wouldn't compromise 2022 onwards, because one championship's great, but this could be the difference between being, top of 2022 onwards and midfield, you know what I mean? But Red Bull's a huge institution, and again, these rules were known about as early as 2019, so they would have thrown loads of money early doors. So I don't think it would have made a huge difference, but maybe a little bit of a difference. But then again, they were guilty of probably overdeveloping the 2013 car, the car that Seb won 9 races in a row in, and then completely flopping the 2014 season. Maybe they should have offset resources earlier. They didn't anticipate dominance of Mercedes on the horizon. You'd like to think they maybe learnt from their mistakes. There is also the new engine situation. So when Honda said they were going to be off, bye-bye, instead of going with a new engine provider, they decided we're just going to take it in-house. Red Bull Powertrains was formed as a separate company, just like Mercedes have Mercedes High Performance Power Units, which used to be Ilmor back in the day. But actually, turns out that Honda have kind of reverse carded it a little bit, because actually they're going to keep on supporting Red Bull right up until the new engine regulations, which are looking for like 2026 kind of time. Red Bull Powertrains have also hired from Honda, so they took Masashi Yamamoto, who's managing director of Honda for the F1 project anyway, and a few other staff as far as I'm aware. They've basically just rebadged it as Red Bull Powertrains. Maybe in time Porsche will come in and take over the naming rights. We'll see. And then Red Bull team principal Christian Horner. Look, love him or hate him, he's won 5 drivers' titles in Formula 1. He oversaw 4 consecutive seasons of Red Bull domination with Sebastian Vettel, and he was able to claw this drivers' championship and give Max the platform, work with Max to make him the best driver of 2021. You have to give him credit for that. And we all know full well what Adrian Newey is capable of. This new technical regulation, I'm sure he's absolutely loved sinking his teeth into this new set of regs. And Newey Horner is a pretty ominous combination. Then for drivers, obviously Max Verstappen will be very energised after how 2021 transpired, winning the title, buzzing for him. But don't forget about Sergio Perez, okay? I know the car architecture was optimized for Max Verstappen in 2021, and it was always going to be difficult for any driver to jump in alongside Max, okay? But now he's got a full season under his belt working with the team. This is a brand new car platform for everyone. Mr. Tyre Management, I expect Sergio to be a lot closer to Max in 22 than he was in 21. I don't expect him to beat him. Definitely not, because for me, Max, again, is the best racing driver in the world right now. I know he's too aggressive, but the FIA should penalise it to stop him doing it. Otherwise, he's going to keep doing it because it works. And finally, the Silver Arrows reverting back to silver by the sounds of it for their 2022 car. The serial winners of the Turbo Hybrid era, no question. Brackley has been smashing it for the last 8 years, but all good things must come to an end, right? Well, I mean, eventually, they won't always win for all of eternity onwards. Someone else will come in and beat them. But will that be now? Not necessarily. They've clearly built a team, they've built a culture at that organisation that knows how to succeed and keep on succeeding. It's not just about winning once, it's about doing it again and again and again. That's not easy, but at the end of the day, they have the resource, they have the budget, they have the personnel to succeed. They've been succeeding continuously. You know, there's going to be staff at that team that don't know what it feels like to lose. I'm sure losing the Drivers' Championship in 21 would have hurt a lot of people, not just the way it happened, but the fact that they just didn't win it. I think that is going to energize everyone at the team. Not just losing it, but losing it in such dodgy circumstances. James Allison is a genius. Toto Wolff is an absolute boss. And Mercedes-Benz are serial winners for a reason. And look, of course, Lewis Hamilton is going to be back in 2022 to fight for driver's title number 8. There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever. When I was chatting to F1 journalist Chris Medland on the Cool Down podcast recently, actually, link above, we were talking about how the story of kind of Max winning in 2021, but then Lewis coming back in 2022 and regaining the title was a super compelling narrative. I agree, because even though Lewis's 2021 wasn't flawless, he did make uncharacteristic mistakes as far as I'm concerned. It was still a very, very good season. It's just his standards are so high that I would say it wasn't quite at the standards that he set, apart from the end of the year when he drove faultlessly, to be fair. Does he need to prove anything to anyone? No, of course not. What more can he prove? But will he want to? Especially the way it went down. He stayed silent for a reason. Lewis is pissed, and I don't blame him for it, and I think he's going to come back bigger, better, stronger. When Nico Rosberg won in 2016, Lewis did not settle for anything less than dominating in 17, 18, 19, 20. But on top of worrying about Max Verstappen, he's also got his new teammate to worry about, a Mr. George Russell. Could he have done much more in that 3-year stint at Williams? I'd argue not really. Did he bottle points a few times? Yes. Ultimately, the performances, points is just an arbitrary number. You've got to try and look at performances where you can and actually judge them on the merit of their performance. I think that Williams stint is a great learning experience from him to know what it's like to slog it at the bottom. He's going to be super grateful for this opportunity to win at the front that Mercedes will hopefully give him. When the rain fell in Spa and in Russia, he proved he put himself in the top 3 at both races where it rained, and rain, as they say in motorsport, is the great equaliser. So if he can do that in a Williams, what could he do in a Mercedes? He jumped into Lewis's car, which is too small for him, wore one size too small shoes at Sakir in 2020 and should have won that race. George is the real deal, and I am buzzing to see how he measures up to Sir Lewis Hamilton. That is going to be a great battle, and I wouldn't be surprised if George beats Lewis. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't expect it to happen. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised. Let's wrap up with 3 big, juicy, early predictions. Again, we've not seen any running, any testing. 3 predictions we'll come back to at the end of the year and laugh at when they are inevitably incorrect. Starting with, you might say this is safe, but I'm saying Alex Albon outscores Nicholas Latifi by more than double. I would be absolutely baffled if this doesn't happen, to be honest. Looking at their careers relative when they were in the same team in Formula 2 back in the day, Alex wiped the floor with Nicholas. I expect nothing other than Albon firmly beating Latifi most weekends. Prediction 2 is that Alpine are capable of winning races on merit, I believe. Call me deluded. Call me Mr. El Plan or Le Plan, because French. Du bist Planmeister. I don't care. Call it what you want. I believe. Fernando has proven he's still operating at an incredibly high level, and Ocon continues to impress me, and I think he's only going to get better. The team knows how to win historically, and I think they're going to develop a package, whichever driver, that can win races on merit. Prediction number 3 is that Yuki Tsunoda will score at least 80% of Pierre Gasly's points total by the end of the season. Basically, I'm saying Yuki's going to be well close to Pierre. So Pierre scores 100 points, Yuki will score at least 80. Again, I know he got pummeled in his first year, but I believe in Yuki. I think he's going to turn it around. New car platform for everyone. He's going to get on top of it. He's going to be quality. He might even beat Pierre. I don't think he'll beat Pierre, but he might. I'm saying 80% of his points total. I think he will push him close throughout the season because I think those two boys are great and I want to see them do well. That's a wrap. That's my season preview done. Again, part 1 linked above. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more F1 content in 2022. It's February. It's going to be super busy. I'm going to do lots of livery redesigns. It's going to be great. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.